Make a fist right now. Squeeze it as hard as you can for 3 seconds, the way you would grip a jar lid that will not budge. That squeeze you just felt in your forearm is not just about your hand. A landmark study published in the Lancet in 2015, tracking nearly 140,000 adults across 17 countries, found that the strength of your grip predicts death from any cause, and specifically your risk of stroke and heart attack, more accurately than systolic blood pressure, the very number every doctor's office in America circles and worries over. And almost nobody over 60 in this country has ever had their grip measured at a medical appointment. Not once. I am a physician who focuses on cardiovascular and stroke prevention, and in years of practice, I have watched patients get their blood pressure checked, their cholesterol drawn, their weight logged, while the single strongest predictor sitting at the end of their own arm went completely unmeasured. So in the next 20-some minutes, I am going to show you exactly what your grip is telling you, why almost no appointment ever checks it, and what you can do this week to read that signal before a stroke reads it for you. Here is exactly what you will walk away with. Promise number 1 is the specific grip strength number, in kilograms, that researchers use to flag clinically significant weakness in adults over 60, broken out for men and for women, so you know exactly where you stand. Promise number 2 is a 90-second test you can do at your kitchen table with a device that costs less than a dinner out, that catches this pattern years before a single doctor's visit ever will. Promise number 3 is the one pattern of decline that matters more than your grip strength on any single day, a pattern almost identical to the trap that catches people watching only their blood pressure. Promise number 4 is the exact 3 questions to bring to your next appointment that turn a vague concern into a measurable one. And promise number 5 is the single biggest mistake people make when they test their own grip at home, a mistake that can make a healthy person look frail on paper and the 20-second fix. There is also a piece of this story that even some fitness influencers get backwards, and I will come back to it near the end, because the way they get it wrong is exactly the way most people over 60 are about to get it wrong too. Let me start with someone real, in the sense that she is built from patients I have seen again and again. Diane is 67. She lives outside Tucson, Arizona, in a house with a garden she still tends herself, tomatoes and peppers in raised beds she built with her late husband. She walks 3 mornings a week with a neighbor, watches her portions, has never smoked a cigarette in her life. Her blood pressure runs a tidy 118/74. Her cholesterol panel is the kind her doctor waves at other patients as an example. Every single number on her annual blood work sits inside the friendly range, and every year her doctor tells her she is doing everything right. What nobody in that office ever measured was Diane's grip. Over about 4 years, without either of them noticing, opening a new jar of pickles had gone from effortless to something she quietly handed to her son when he visited. Carrying both grocery bags in one trip, something she had done her whole life, had turned into 2 trips, then asking for help. She told herself it was nothing, just getting older, the ordinary tax of turning 60-something. It was not nothing. Grip strength is not really a story about hands. It is a proxy for your total muscle mass, and muscle is not just for lifting things. Muscle tissue is where your body clears a huge share of the sugar circulating in your blood after a meal. Muscle is a major source of the anti-inflammatory, signaling that keeps blood vessels calm, and muscle mass is tightly tied to how efficiently your heart and blood vessels handle the everyday demand of standing up, walking, and simply existing under gravity. When muscle quietly erodes, a process called sarcopenia, the vascular system loses one of its steadiest partners, often years before any blood test picks it up. One October morning, Diane stood up from her garden bed too fast, and the world tilted. She grabbed the raised bed's wooden frame, but her right hand would not close around it the way it should have, her fingers curling only halfway, and she went down onto the soil among the tomato plants. She was fully conscious the entire time, which is part of what makes these small strokes so easy to miss, and for a moment, she genuinely thought she had simply lost her balance the way anyone might. Her neighbor, the one she walked with every morning, came over within the hour to check on her when she did not answer her phone, noticed her speech sounded thick, like she was talking around a mouthful of cotton, and called for help without hesitation. It was a stroke, a small one, in a region that controls fine hand movement and word finding, the kind of stroke that can be genuinely easy to write off as fatigue or a bad night's sleep if nobody happens to notice the speech. She recovered most of her function within weeks, with real, hard work, and outpatient therapy. But the cardiologist who reviewed her case afterward made a point of testing her grip strength for the first time in her life, something that had simply never come up in 11 years of otherwise excellent annual physicals. 14 kilograms in her dominant hand. For a woman her age, the clinical cutoff researchers used to flag meaningful weakness is 16 kilograms. Diane had been below the line for who knows how long, invisible on every chart that mattered to her regular doctor, because nobody had ever thought to draw that particular line. I am not telling you Diane's story because she is unusual. I am telling you because she is typical of exactly the pattern this test catches. Her blood pressure was a report card. Her cholesterol was a report card. Her grip was the one measurement quietly tracking the actual machinery, the muscle, the inflammation, the vascular reserve, and nobody had opened that report card in years. The Lancet study I mentioned followed those 140,000 adults for a median of 4 years and found that for every 5 kilograms weaker a person's grip measured, their risk of death from any cause rose by roughly 16%, their risk of cardiovascular death rose by roughly 17%, and their risk of stroke specifically rose by roughly 9%, even after accounting for age, smoking, activity level, and education. Grip strength, on its own, outpredicted systolic blood pressure for overall mortality. Read that again. The measurement nobody takes beat the measurement everybody takes. So let me explain the mechanism in plain English, so you can repeat it to anyone you love. Your body's muscle is not separate from your cardiovascular system. It is wired directly into it. Skeletal muscle is the largest reservoir of protein in your body, and it is also one of the largest consumers of glucose after a meal, which means shrinking muscle mass makes your blood sugar regulation noticeably worse even if you never develop diabetes. Shrinking muscle is also associated with a rise in circulating inflammatory markers, the same low-grade inflammation that roughens the inner lining of your arteries and makes plaque more likely to rupture. And because grip strength correlates tightly with total body strength, a weak grip is a stand-in for weak legs, a weak core, and a weakened ability to catch yourself, react, and physically withstand a cardiovascular event if one happens. Researchers sometimes call grip strength a biomarker of aging itself, not because your hand is special, but because the hand is simply the easiest place to measure a decline that is happening everywhere in the body at once. Think of it this way. Your muscles are not just the ropes that move your skeleton, they behave almost like a second endocrine organ, constantly releasing chemical signals that talk to your liver, your blood vessels, and your immune system. A young, well-used muscle sends out signals that calm inflammation and keep the vascular lining smooth. An aging, underused muscle sends out a different chemical conversation, one that tilts toward inflammation and away from repair. You cannot see that conversation happening in a mirror. You can measure its downstream effect at the end of your arm. A stiff artery, the kind we talk about on this channel constantly, does not develop in isolation. It develops in a body that is also losing muscle, gaining inflammation, and losing its physical reserve. The grip is where all three of those threads happen to meet a tape measure, which is exactly why a cardiologist can learn something about your arteries from a test that never touches your chest. Now let me show you this pattern in someone who looks nothing like Diane. Because if you think this only touches quiet grandmothers with gardens, you will miss it in yourself. Take Walter. He is 72, a retired iron worker outside Pittsburgh, the kind of man who spent 40 years hauling steel beams and never once thought of his hands as anything but tools. Walter's grip, most of his life, was the strongest thing about him, somewhere around 45 kilograms well into his 60s, the kind of handshake that made younger men wince. But over about 18 months, his grip fell to 29 kilograms, and he never noticed, because 29 kilograms still felt strong to a man who used to be at 45. A sudden, rapid drop in grip strength, even one that lands well above the official weakness cutoff, is its own separate warning sign, sometimes a bigger one than the raw number itself, because a fast decline usually means something acute is eating away at muscle, undiagnosed heart failure straining the body's metabolism, a thyroid problem, inflammation from an infection nobody caught, or the early stages of a vascular process quietly starving the muscle of blood flow. Walter had a transient ischemic attack, a TIA, on a Sunday afternoon, working under his truck in the driveway, his left hand going numb halfway through gripping a wrench, the tool clattering onto the concrete before he could stop it. It resolved within 15 minutes, his hand tingling back to normal like it had merely fallen asleep. He told his son it was nothing, just a pinched nerve from an awkward angle under the chassis. People do this constantly with TIAs. They explain them away because the symptoms vanish so quickly, and because admitting otherwise feels, to a man like Walter, like admitting he is no longer the strongest guy in the room. But a TIA is not a false alarm. It is a fire alarm, and roughly 1 in 3 people who have one and ignore it go on to have a full stroke, a large share within the following 90 days, with the highest risk concentrated in the first 48 hours after the event. Walter's son, who happened to be a physical therapist and recognized the pattern immediately, insisted on a full workup that week rather than waiting for the next scheduled physical. The cardiology team found significant narrowing in one carotid artery, caught before the second, larger event ever had the chance to happen. His rapid grip decline, in hindsight, going back through old fitness tracker data his son dug up, had been broadcasting the story for over a year, months before the wrench ever hit the concrete. Then there is Renata. She is 61, a retired music teacher in Minneapolis, and she is the surprising one. Renata's grip looked completely fine on the one occasion anyone checked it, 27 kilograms, comfortably above the weakness cutoff for a woman her age. Her doctor would call that reassuring, and on that single day, he would not be wrong. But Renata had started testing her own grip at home every month after watching a segment about frailty on the news, the same disciplined way she used to track 40 years of students' progress, one small measurement recorded in the same notebook on the same shelf. And she noticed something a once-a-year physical could never catch. Her number was sliding, slowly, month over month, always still comfortably above the population cutoff, always still technically fine. 27 kilograms in January, 25 in April, 23 in August. No single reading was alarming. No single reading would have triggered a phone call to her doctor, and no doctor glancing at any one of those numbers in isolation would have raised an eyebrow. But the slope connecting those readings was the actual story, a roughly 10% decline within 8 months, well beyond the gentle, gradual loss most people experience with age, and closer to the kind of drop researchers associate with something specific happening underneath. Renata brought her log to her next appointment, 3 columns and 8 rows on a single sheet of notebook paper. Blood work her doctor ordered on the strength of that trend turned up a vitamin D level low enough to matter and early signs of an underactive thyroid, both of them quietly accelerating muscle loss, both of them entirely treatable, neither of them something that would have been caught by a routine visit built around blood pressure and cholesterol alone. Within 6 months of treatment and a simple resistance routine her doctor approved, her grip climbed back into the low 30s, higher than where she had started tracking in the first place. Renata is the case that proves the entire point of this video. The number that predicts your future is not the one measured once a year. It is the one you watch over time. 3 people. A gardener whose every report card looked perfect while the one measurement nobody took quietly told a different story. An iron worker whose grip was still technically strong by the numbers, but whose rapid decline was the loudest signal in the room. A retired teacher who caught a slow, sliding trend that a single annual check would have called fine twice in a row and never once seen the slope between them. Different bodies, different decades, different shapes of decline. The same overlooked number sitting at the center of all 3. So here is exactly what to do, in order, starting this week. First, buy a hand dynamometer, not a bathroom-scale grip gadget or a spring-loaded exerciser you find in the fitness aisle, an actual calibrated dynamometer, the kind physical therapists use in clinics every day. You can find a reliable analog or digital model for $15 to $30, and look for one that reports its reading in kilograms as well as pounds, since almost all of the research uses kilograms and you want your number to line up with the ranges I am about to give you. A digital model with an adjustable handle is worth the extra few dollars over the cheapest option, because an adjustable grip means the device fits your hand size properly, and a handle that is the wrong size for your hand can shift your reading by several kilograms in either direction, which defeats the entire purpose of tracking a trend. This is the foundation for everything else, because as you saw with Renata, a single squeeze on one day tells you almost nothing next to a trend measured the same way over time. Second, measure correctly, because measuring wrong is the mistake that makes your own numbers lie to you, and this is promise number 5 paid in full. Sit in a chair with armrests or at a table. Keep your shoulder relaxed at your side, not out to the side, elbow bent at 90 degrees, forearm neutral, not twisted palm up or palm down. Squeeze as hard as you comfortably can for about 3 seconds, then rest for at least 15 seconds before trying again. Do this 3 times on each hand and record your single best reading, not the average, the best. Standing up, leaning your body weight into the squeeze, or bracing your arm against your ribs can inflate the number by several kilograms and hide a real decline from you. That single postural shortcut fools more home testers than anything else I see. The fix takes 20 seconds, sit down, keep your elbow at your side, and let your hand do the actual work. Third, know your number and watch the trend, not the snapshot. For adults, researchers generally flag clinically significant weakness at a grip strength under 26 kilograms in men and under 16 kilograms in women, though your own healthy baseline may run higher or lower depending on your frame and history, which is exactly why your own trend matters more than the population cutoff. Test on the same day each month, same time of day, same chair, and write down your best reading from each hand. You are not looking for a single scary number. You are looking for what Renata found, a slope of more than about 10% over a few months, or what Walter had, a rapid, unexplained drop even from a strong starting point. Either pattern is worth a conversation, regardless of where the raw number sits. Fourth, bring the numbers, not the worry, to your next appointment and ask 3 specific questions. Question 1. Can you measure my grip strength today with a calibrated dynamometer? And can we make that a standard part of my checkups going forward? Question 2. Given my trend over the past few months, does this look like ordinary aging or something we should investigate, like thyroid function, vitamin D, or inflammation markers? Question 3. Given my current strength level, should I be doing structured resistance training? And is there anything about my heart or blood pressure medications I need to know before I start? Those 3 questions force the visit onto the actual machinery instead of a reassuring glance at your weight and your blood pressure. Bring your log, printed, with dates. A printed log changes the conversation more than any sentence you can say, because it turns you from a patient with a vague worry about getting older into a patient with an actual data set. Fifth, know the 2 situations where a low number does not automatically mean danger, and the 1 situation where it demands urgency. If you have arthritis or a hand injury affecting only that hand, test the other hand as your primary number, since local joint pain can suppress grip without reflecting your overall health. If you are naturally small-framed and have tested consistently in a stable range your whole life, a number a little under the population cutoff may simply be your baseline, which is, again, exactly why the trend matters more than a single cutoff pulled from a study of thousands of strangers. But a sudden drop of more than roughly 10 to 15% within a few months at any starting number in a person over 60 deserves a real conversation soon, not at your next annual physical 8 months from now. Research groups that study frailty in the very old have found that men in particular can lose grip strength at just over a kilogram a year on average as they age. So anything faster than that, especially anything sudden, is your body raising its hand. Now, before we finish, the part I promised to come back to, the thing some fitness content gets backwards. You will see confident claims online that grip strength is simply a hand thing, that you can fix it in a week with a rubber hand gripper, and that once your number looks fine, you can stop paying attention. That advice is half right and dangerously incomplete. Squeezing a hand gripper for a few weeks absolutely can raise your number, sometimes quickly, because you are training the specific muscles being tested. The same way you could improve a single test score by memorizing the answer key without ever learning the subject. But if the underlying cause of your decline was systemic, low thyroid function, a vitamin deficiency, worsening heart function, or the ordinary loss of total body muscle that comes with inactivity, a hand gripper alone treats the measurement and leaves the actual disease process completely untouched. Your forearm gets stronger while your cardiovascular system keeps drifting in the same direction it was already headed, and now the one early warning sign you had is quietly muted. This is precisely why real resistance training, working the large muscles of the legs, back, and core 2 or 3 times a week, matters so much more than isolated hand exercises. Whole body strength training addresses the actual biology, the muscle mass, the glucose handling, the inflammatory signaling, while a hand gripper only ever addresses the readout. Diane's story is the trap in miniature. If someone had simply handed her a grip strengthener 18 months earlier without ever asking why her grip was falling, her number on paper might have looked better while the vascular story underneath kept writing itself. The number is a messenger. Training the hand without asking what the hand is telling you is reading the messenger's outfit and ignoring the message. And here is one move that even a thorough primary care visit may never raise on its own. Grip strength testing combines beautifully with a simple gait speed check, timing how long it takes you to walk about 13 feet at your normal, comfortable pace. Not rushing, not strolling, just the pace you would use crossing a parking lot. Have someone time you with a phone stopwatch, starting the moment your first foot crosses the line and stopping when the second foot crosses the far line, and do it twice to be sure. Together, a weak grip and a gait speed under about 0.8 meters per second, roughly a comfortable but unhurried walk, covering that distance in a little over 16 seconds, are two of the core measurements used to flag frailty in the research literature. And frailty itself is one of the strongest predictors we have of poor recovery after a stroke or a cardiac event, independent of age alone. Sometimes independent even of how many other diagnoses are already on the chart. If your grip and your walking speed are both strong, that is genuinely reassuring information, worth feeling good about, not something to worry about. If either one is drifting, whether it is a slow decline like Renata's or a sudden one like Walter's, that is the moment to ask for a broader workup rather than waiting for a symptom or a fall to force the question for you. I have put together a free one-page resource called the Handshake Test Tracker. It is a printable log with the correct testing posture illustrated, space to record your monthly readings for both hands, the age and sex reference ranges, and the 3 questions to bring to your doctor. You can get it at the link in the description below. It is free, there is nothing to buy, and it is designed to be the single sheet you bring to your next appointment. If this helped, you understand a number that has probably never once been measured in your own chart, the most useful thing you can do is hit the like button and subscribe to Dr. Vitalis, because every subscriber helps this reach one more person over 60 who has never had their grip checked. There is no billing code for a 5-minute squeeze test, so this channel is how the message travels. And if you have a parent, a spouse, or a neighbor over 60, send them this video today, before their next appointment, so they walk in already, knowing to ask for the dynamometer. That one request, asked in time, is the kind of thing that keeps someone tending their own garden next spring. This video is for education only and is not medical advice. Please talk with your own physician about your specific situation. I will see you in the next one.